The first time I heard Abe was at a food festival, or native food festival, that California Botanic Garden, at that time it was still Rancho Santa Ana Botanic Garden, put on in Claremont. And it was just such an eye-opener, that festival. And it was at that time that I was very impressed with the book that he and his committee had produced. And so I got that book. And I've been cooking with it since. So, including the cactus that grows in our backyard. And it has been an experience. And the next time I met him was on the conservation, CNPS Conservation Conference a few years back. And it has been just growing. So he's well known to our community, and we have been trying to have this meeting since maybe a year ago we started talking, and we finally settled on January 2025 program. And then January 7 was the fire. So yeah, no program in January. So it has been a long time coming, and we are so happy that you can come here.
My voice is loud enough. I think my voice is loud enough. So I have what? Until before 9?
Yeah.
We don't have enough time. So anyway, who am I? Abe Sanchez. Thank you very much for having me here. I do want to, like I said, acknowledge that we are on Tonga land. I want to acknowledge also some of our special guests here. We have Ramona Rodriguez, who is one of our basket weavers, who is Tongva, one of our revitalists on Tongva basketry. And I also want to acknowledge you too, Brenda, who is the one who I would check with and said, what about that CMPS? What about that Gabby people? She said, yeah, they're good people. Go talk to them. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm here. So yes, like Gabby said, it was, you scheduled many times, and I do give my condolences to the loss of the center. We were like a few days before the presentation when the fire hit, and I was scheduled for that Thursday or something, whatever, and the fire hit. So, but I'm here. So like I said, I have here before 9, and I don't think we're gonna be able to provide everything, but I'm gonna see how much I can provide to you, what we're doing. A little bit who I am. I am Mexican descendant. I am not California Indian or pretend Indian, okay? I have descendancy of an indigenous, but from Michoacan. I'm born native to Southern California. I have worked with Native people for many years here in revitalization of basketry, as well as this food system that we're talking about. My career that I did for 29 years was in public health. I worked in communicable diseases. I started working in HIV education and prevention. I started working in tuberculosis, sexually transmitted diseases. I've heard everything about sex that you ever wanted to hear. I've heard it all. That was my daily touch. I do contact investigation. So what this took me to here, what I want to share with you here is kind of something that I find that very alarming over the years that I've been working with this reintroduction and revitalization of indigenous foods, because it applies to Native people who are working, looking at the fact of revitalizing their foods, but it doesn't stop there, because we are all responsible and we're all affected by how our food system is today. Starting off, our food ways have changed, but our bodies have not adapted and learned know how to digest those new foods. That processed food, our body doesn't know how to digest it. It's causing problems with our weight, it's causing diabetes, it's causing heart disease, all these other things. They're blaming it on meat and cholesterol and all stuff, whatever. It's processed food that's, it's a big factor to diabetes, all these other foods that's causing that stuff. I was fortunate, first of all, I'm not a physician, I'm not a nurse, I was a disease investigator. My job was to find out contact investigation, contact tracing, how somebody got HIV, syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes, tuberculosis. My job was go in there and look under blankets and see what you're doing. Okay, so, and find out how it happened, all right? So, what's happened today, what's going on today, like I said, is our food systems, it's our lifestyle today that, we have these, we have, these processed foods that are cheap. They're readily available and they're everywhere for us to, that we can get. But I'll be blunt, because I think what's going on is they're gonna continue to sell us these foods, they're gonna make us sick, and then the drug companies are gonna make money selling these drugs to make us well again. I believe that's what's going on.
Oh, yes.
So, what we can do is, I taught my work with behavior change, knowledge gain, behavior change. I teach people about using a condom, how to use a condom, how to put on a condom, so you don't get HIV. I'm not gonna doubt you, and since people come to me, they're having 100 partners in 1 year. I'm not gonna tell you do not have sex, but I'm gonna say, if you're gonna do this, this is what you do, this is how you put a condom on, blah, 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 it's what you give people alternatives. So it's the same message, but I've changed now the message, but now the same history that I have. And I was very fortunate that I got to work with many disease researchers, many physicians, many doctors, in this whole industry. But now I kind of take it off on my own take on what I'm trying to do here with native foods. Because like I said, I think it affects all of us. So that's where I'm coming from. That's what I want to share with you. We started this whole native food revitalization project maybe about 20-something years ago, 25 years ago, maybe. And I got involved with it because I do the basketry, with the revitalization of basketry. I work in San Ynez, Chumash, I work with the Tongva, I work with other tribes here. I'm doing work with Paula on the food, whole concept down there. But like I said, it doesn't stop there. I think we're all responsible, whether you're native or not. I think this message is important for all of us to know here. So what I want to share with you is just that, what we kind of come across. I'm going to go over our book, show you our book, which by the way, our book is out of print, but you can still find it online. It's it was on it's for many years and out there where you can purchase it, but people say that they can still find it and so forth. It's not, I'm not going to say it's not the Bible of Southern California food. Our book is really pretty much to be changed, augmented, do whatever you want to do with it. We encourage other people to do the same thing with it. I'm working right now on a project with the state through Paula Reservation on trying to implement some of these. Now the state's involved in trying to bring these native foods, views, really native food recipes to the reservations in the state of California. So I've been working on a pilot project right now to kind of train people within the community on the reservation on how to want to eat these, bring these foods back into their diet. And it's been a lot of fun, a lot of challenging, very challenging to get people to
But we lost our share.
whatever. What's that? Oh, well, that's the thing. But anyhow, so that's, like I said, where I'm coming from. I think food is always, gets people's attention. I wanted to share with you here real quick what I did bring to you. Now, I want to make also very clear that when we first started this idea of native foods, we worked with native people and we thought, oh, let's cook these foods traditional. Let's be authentic. Let's do this traditional, the way it was done. Well, we tried that. Then we got people to taste it and people didn't like it. So I learned that what we need to do is we gotta kind of get people to kind of start liking it.
Okay, good.
Develop a flavor for it, okay? We have to fuse it. Some of you got to try the tortilla. Everybody knows what the tortilla is now, but now we fuse this tortilla with mesquite bean flour, little butter, there's chia seeds in there. So we're kind of fixing it a little bit to kind of make you feel, kind of develop a little palate for it. We have to kind of take baby steps to get people to like this. I am gonna have, Brenda, who is gonna go around just a little bit who's gonna give you a little taste of this, acorn. This is Mount Wilson. And what was the name of the species you just, what was,
Canyon live oak.
Canyon live oak. This is Canyon live oak. Very delicious, very, very good. I also have emery oak from Tucson, Arizona, Mexico, Sonora. You can try that. You eat these like sunflower tea. Try that. I have some gingerbread here that's made with mesquite flour, used and sweetened with, sweetened with elderberry syrup. And I have a very special treat is, cordon. Cordon is a relative, I'm assuming it's a relative to the saguaro. Everybody knows about the saguaro cactus, the one that, you know, with the little owl and the little coyote at the bottom kind of thing, whatever. But this species grows all over Baja and on the coastline there of the Gulf of California. And it is a staple food of the Seri Indian. I do have a project with Seri Indians where they come every year, and I hope to see you guys on the 7th and 8th at Ginachi. They're having the Indian market. We have a booth there, and they bring all their cool stuff up to sell. So every time they come up, they bring me fish, they bring me all kinds of things, whatever. And then they brought me some cordon fruit. We had some students today, usually, we cook this stuff. This has been stone ground. It's the whole seed, the whole fruit. This is what they make wine. This is ready to gather around 4th of July. The Seri that's when they have their New Year, when the mesquite beans, this fruit, all things are available. And this is when they have and then again, certain migrating fish come up. That one of their food sources is a sea turtle. So that's when food is plentiful. So they brought me this. This is a very special treat, I think. This is probably something you may never get to taste again, just to go down there and pick it yourself. But this is the fruit right here. This is actually the red, but this is the white one. The red are much more beautiful than the fruit, but so that is the red and that's the white one. This is one of the Seri women, and you see the size of the tree. They're ancient. They're bigger than the saguaro. Saguaro gives fruit up here at the top, and these give fruit on the side. And there's around 4th of July when they're ready. You go, I mean, it's like 110 degrees out there. You go in the early evening or early morning, right when they pop open. And then that's when you catch them with a little hook, take them out and then eat them. But they make wine out of that. Sort of like what the Tohono also do with the saguaro. They also make the wine seed. This seed is much bigger. The saguaro is very much smaller seed, whatever. Anyway, just a little introduction, a little treat. Just want to mention that. A little plug for our show that will be there, Ginachi. Please stop by. The prices are reasonable. They have very good prices on their pizzas there. So we can go back to my slides or whatever. Anyway, so some of the things, like I said, I work in health because I'm going to bring in health. Anybody, you've all heard of fatty liver? Okay. Today it's called non-alcoholic fatty liver people are getting today. You all knew, I'm sure we all met somebody who had cirrhosis of the liver because they were alcoholics. Okay, that's back in the day. People had fatty liver because what happens is when you drink too much fructose, it's all sugar. Okay, you eat too much of that fat, that sugar goes straight to the liver, stores it, you get the fatty liver, and then you develop cirrhosis of the liver. Okay, that's back in the day. Today we have non-alcoholic fatty liver. Who gets that? Children, young women, young men, because of too much sugar we're eating today. Too much fructose. Okay, it's an epidemic proportion in the developed world, across the world. Diabetes extends from that. All kinds of diseases stem from that. It's the food that we're eating. Like I said earlier, our food ways have changed, but our bodies don't know how to digest these frankenfoods. Okay, margarine. When you eat margarine, if you eat Crisco, your body doesn't know how to digest it. Okay, so those are things that we grew up eating and all this stuff, whatever. And these are the things that we're seeing. These are the things that are affecting a lot of us today. And it's we're kind of like, they got us by the balls. It's either, we have both parents work. You go to Costco, you buy all this frozen food that's all ready to cook, stick it in the microwave, and then, and that's what you got to eat. And on the way out, you pick up a pizza and hot dogs, at Costco, all processed. Okay, not good for us. But it's cheap. It's cheap. Okay, so this is kind of where we're at right now. Yes, make changes. You know, I'll refer to things as whole foods. I'm not talking about whole food store, whole paycheck. Okay, you know, when you go there, of course, whatever, it's just eating, it's just learn, we have to learn how to eat. I've learned to also, and as you guys all know, if you don't know, you know, diabetes is reversible. You guys know that, right? Diabetes is reversible, but it's behavior change, diet change. Okay, I'm not a physician. If you're diabetic, I'm not going to tell you to do that. Talk with a nutritionist, talk with your doctor if you're diabetic and you're looking to reverse your diet, because it is possible when people are doing it. I myself was pre-diabetic, and because of my family, and I've been able to change my diet, and I've been able to keep my A1C down. No medication or nothing, all diet change, but I had to do this behavior change. I had to change my behavior. Can't eat burritos anymore. I can't eat rice anymore. Not that I can't. I won't eat that anymore. But I know people who won't make the change. You know, they're gonna take that, what's that pill that everybody's taking to lose weight? The diabetics take, Ozempic, whatever. What is it? Ozempic, yeah, the diabetic people are taking that, whatever. But you're off that, you go, you know, you go right back to what you're doing. It's change. It's change that we need to do. Also, our bodies were made to fast. This whole breakfast, lunch, and dinner snack, we made that up. Our bodies need to fast to digest and get the nutritional value of what you ate. Okay, again, I'm not telling you to fast, but I'm just saying this is how our bodies work. You ran a deer, we killed a deer, we cooked that deer, we ate that deer, we ran out, and now we don't have maybe meat for another 4, 5, 6, and maybe 10 days until we hunt it out of the bee and we start eating that meat again. We fasted. We ate this food. That's what we ate before. That's the way human bodies function. Today, we have foods with these high carbon footprints that are shipped all over to us. I mean, some of you who are older like myself, you remember back in the day when we ate foods that were seasonal. Okay, right now I gave you nopales because we're in the season nopal. It's the spring food. Okay, we ate nopales in the spring. You ate the fruit in the fall. You ate peaches in the sun, June, or plums. You ate watermelon this summer, and you wouldn't have it anymore, right? We kind of grew up eating that way. But now we can have these foods all year long. We can have your mangoes and peaches and all these other things all year long. All this fructose, all this sugar, all this stuff, whatever that we can eat all year long. We didn't eat that way before. Okay, so the thing is, changes that we have to just acknowledge that we gain. So this, after years of doing it, I'm sharing with you years of my experience of what we've seen, what we've done, what we came across when we're developing this book. You know, we were not planning on developing a cookbook. We were going to just do some nice little, Deborah Small is a fantastic photographer, and we didn't do this, whatever, but why it turned into a cookbook. And it's really one of the first books on Southern California foods grown here that was done here. We Californians, we are hip with our fashion and latest stuff, whatever. We're way behind on this whole native food thing. Arizona is way on top. The little conservative people over there, they are very much ahead of us. This whole native food system started in that area. Colorado comes out of that area when they're the ones who started the whole concept of native food. We were going to these conferences there, gatherings at the Herd Museum when they started bringing. I was going with my basketry groups to go there and learn about, introduce, and California basket weavers, and then these whole group of new people were coming in with this whole native food concept. I learned from them. I learned from the Tohono O'odham. Was a federally funded grant that was for the Tohono O'odham, who had the largest obesity problem in the nation among Native people, and they were trying to get them to eat native foods again. Choya buds, tapiri beans, which we have over there, trying to get them to eat their foods again, to somehow tackle that weight and somehow didn't eat that, get away from the fry bread and all that stuff, whatever. So I learned from them on the people, the developers of these projects. So I was collecting this information. Some of my big teachers also are, if somebody you guys have heard of Gary Nabhan, Gary Nabhan, highly recommend. You want to read good stuff. Gary Nabhan is a super duper food desert person. Has anybody ever heard of Richard Felger? You have not heard of Richard Felger? Oh my God. He's an amazing botanist, died a number of years ago. Richard Felger has taught me a lot. Richard Falger went around the world and started identifying these plants, like mesquite, for example, that grow in low water, that take very low water. Mesquite, there's a grass called nipa grass in the delta of Colorado that the natives would gather there, that grows in these marshes and these playas. They would gather the seed of this, very nutritional, can take 120 degrees. The tapery bean that only survives and grows, does better with the monsoons and can take 120 degrees. The more you water it, the more leaves it get. The less you water it, the more beans it gives. So it's one of these foods that he's developed that they're trying to introduce to these countries, parts of the world, who can start growing these foods. But we got to do it here, right? Within our own country itself. However, as we were going through this trail, as we were going through this learning process that we're going here, an introduction of things, we found and discovered that I can bring you to this and you can taste it. American people are very studious. They're getting better with food. Those TV shows, but all that cooking shows, it helps. Okay, but it's about this, it's about, the smell. But I also learned, which is very interesting, that when we try to introduce these foods, there's the sniffer, the person who sniffs the food before they eat it. There's the visual person. There's a person on the texture. I'm neither one. I'm a visual. I don't care what it looks like. If it tastes good down the gullet, I'm easy. But I thought everybody was like me, and I'll find out, oh no, that person's like, I don't like whatever. Or they look at it, or they put it, oh, I don't like the texture in my mouth, they spit it out. Or the old one comes out, laugh in the face, you did that and you just turned everybody away, and it's like, we're trying to introduce these foods to people. So there's a lot of factors that kind of, whatever. Nopal, which I'll talk about in a little bit. American people, we all have this, I'm gonna say, because I work with the American public, we have a thing against slime, okay? Slimy, gross, whatever. The mucilaginous in cactus is super duper for for your gut. By the way, let me tell you one thing, when you floss, this is how detailed I like to do. When you floss, what's the purpose of flossing? Can anybody tell me, what's the purpose of flossing?
Disturbs bacteria.
Okay, well, where's the bacteria on? Okay, but what are you trying to take out when you floss?
The bacteria.
The slime.
Yeah.
You'll find the little cuts, but when you floss, it's getting the slime out. That's where the bacteria is out. That's where the bacteria is in. Okay, it's not just popping it in there and whatever. It's the slime. That's bad slime. But cactus, have a lot of mucilaginous, but I'll go into whatever. These are good, healthy foods for our foods. And I would, and just, this is on my mind right now. You guys, we have no choice. We have to make food alternatives. We have to. The way our world is going, whether you believe in global warming or not, something's happening. I'm a native to this area. Yeah, these winds, whatever. You guys remember Santa Ana winds started in September, October, November? You get chapped lips. Not in January. I mean, I remember as a child, that's when the Santa Ana winds. Now it's like, and they were hot and dry, whatever, and you got all your new school clothes, winter clothes, and it's like 90 degrees and it's September, October because of the Santa Ana winds. That doesn't happen anymore. The winds happen in January. So, something's happened. Something is going to change. It's changing. So we have to look at this. The world has never had so many people, so many humans on the planet. Never had this many people on the planet. How are we going to feed them? Continue to make cornflakes? Continue to have all this processed food, feed us, which we already see the damage is doing, the health that's doing to us already. I mean, look around what it's doing to us. I mean, it's not, this processed food is not it's not the answer, So this is where we look into these native foods. This is what we're bringing. But before I even go into the native foods, I do want to make something very, very clear before I forget. Native foods. You guys saw this, the sage in the world. I have these, by the way, they're free. Did you guys see the sage in the world? The appropriation of white sage? Okay. These foods I'm talking about are native to this area. Native people ate this. I'm gonna introduce them to you and you're gonna talk about them, but the concern today on Native communities is that the appropriation of these foods, the commodity of these foods, people making money on them. Okay? That's a concern, and I understand that. I encourage people, if you're gonna go into that type of business, well, we need to include the Native community to be part of that. I'm gonna talk about nopal. The cactus is on the Mexican flag, you know? I think if we're gonna do business to get people, everybody to eat nopales, it's like, maybe we should get Mexicans to be part of this.
Yeah.
You know, so they start calling native economy and culture appropriation, the whole thing, whatever. So those are things I just want you to think about as I'm talking about these foods. That I'm introducing to these foods to you that you probably know about, but just kind of letting you know. Some of the things where I want the background that I want you just to be sensitive about. But it's an emergency. We have to start thinking of food alternatives. What are we growing in California? Go to the next slide, please. What are we growing in California? We're growing almonds, and you can get your almond milk. What's the almond doing? Drying out the aquifers. I mean, and it's like, I mean, who even eats almonds? I don't even eat almonds. You know, I mean, it's like, I used to, them diet, you take 10 almonds, eat almonds, and I was in India and I saw a bunch of California almonds for sale over there because they like almonds. You know, I was like, but here it's like, now they're making milk out of almonds. I understand these diet things and stuff, whatever, but I'm like thinking, wait a minute. And I'll talk about mesquite that grows here, that doesn't take a lot of water. Why are we eating that? Anyway, here's acorn. Brenda, I'm gonna have you do me a little favor, just real quick. Brenda's gonna walk around and she's just gonna give you a little scoop on your hand. I'm not gonna give you no plain, I think just give a little scoop like this on your hand. And I want you to say, this is traditional native way in how you eat, acorn. No sugar, no salt, no nothing. I leached it already. I'm not gonna poison you, because everybody says, native food, no, it's poisonous. All right, it's not poisonous, you know, or it's, there's been a lot of factors, barriers that we've done, that we ran into to try to get people to eat these foods. Fear is the big one. You know, oh, it's a poisonous, it's gonna kill me, oh, it's gonna get diarrhea, oh, there's whatever, everybody, so I'm not gonna taste it, you know? Yeah, I understand if you have allergies, you know, so whatever, yeah. Peanut seems to be getting the blame, but there is a lot of other things, you know, if your moldy beans, if your beans have mold on their fungus, that's also gonna give you the same, because it's a legume, the same family. So it's not just peanuts, would be that. So acorn, the one you're gonna have here is the one, like I said, that grows up here at Mount Wilson. That is from Mount Wilson. Very good acorn. That would have been what the tongue would have eaten here. This acorn is a like I said, to gather some of these, we go over the next slide. Some of these foods, go to the next slide. Some, you know, acorn. It's one of these that quite go next one. We'll go for it. Let's see if we can get the next one. What I'm going through, I'm just going through the book. So this is a copy of the book. Go to the next one, whatever. I'm gonna just get to the pretty pictures. Go, what am I going next? Okay, yeah, go back, yeah. So this is one of our classes, they crack an acorn and stuff, whatever. So this is actually a slideshow of our cookbooks that I'm sharing with you. We teach that. Acorns are low glycemic, okay? Good fats, want omega-3s, right? What's the good one we get from salmon and these other things, meats and stuff, whatever. But it is, as you all know, a staple that Native people say it's my food kind of thing, whatever. We or you would have to get a permit to go gather acorns up in the mountains. You don't have to be Native American. Anybody can get a permit, okay? But if you have that concern, because again, some of you already know that there is over harvesting, okay? We know that, but you guys have acorns growing all over the street here, whatever. The cars are running over them. why don't you pick these up instead of going out to the mountain and worry about getting a permit? You know, so they're available at different places. It's learning how to gather them. You know, you gather the acorns in the fall. After you gather them, then you have to dry an acorn. See, people say, oh, wait, I got a big old bag of acorns. I want to learn an acorn. Where'd you get them? The other week, whatever. You have to dry them. They have to sometimes dry for about a year. Once, and you hope they don't mold. When you put them off the ground, air it out, whatever, and you stir them, whatever, and hope they don't mold. And then the problem also too with acorns is they're gonna get that worm. Okay, that'll once that it's attacked that acorn, you're gone. But what you can do is when acorns are fresh, you get them, crack them open, and let them dry out of the shell. It's more work, you can actually eat those worms. It's you can fry them up. They're very fatty. They're very good. You can eat those. So you can so you save them, dry them that way, and you have a better chance of saving your acorn if you don't want to do the whole process of drying them in the shell and stuff, whatever. Because there's really high risk of if you put them on the ground, the moisture from the cement. I put them in my garage. I put them in these certain bags that are gonna breathe and this whole thing, whatever. And it's still mold, whatever. But if you crack them open, it's much better, and you dry them out of the shell, it could be better. Once they're dry, then you grind them. You don't do this, this is an old grinding run, stone or whatever, grinding stone there. You grind it, pulverize them, you leach it. It's pretty simple. It doesn't sound, it's not really, it's a very lengthy process, but it could be done, it's done. Anybody can do it. I grind my blenders in my Vitamix. I don't do that stone thing. Sure, it's great, but I mean, we can do that. But Native people want to learn how to do that, but you don't have to learn how to do that if you don't want to. You can do the, Vitamix, and then you make your flour. Now, why you don't use your acorns when they're fresh? Stop. If you grind them, it turns into a dough. You want a flour. You want to grind and make the flour, then you leach it. Then you leach it and then you leach it with water until you flush out. What do you guys think?
Great.
And that's good? Very good acorn, very good acorn. Anyway, go on next. Low glycemic. Okay, keeps you full longer, good fiber, good for our microbiome. Okay, which we're not feeding because we're eating too many cornflakes and too much, processed foods from Costco. Go ahead, next, see what other good pictures come up. Please, next slide, next one. Okay, mesquite. Let me see, go to the next one. Next. Oh, wait, let's do the eggs. Go ahead. I'm just I want to focus on some of the pictures here. Go on. I'm just there's a few more I want to talk about. You guys don't know about the yucca. Let's get to the mesquite. Good picture of the mesquite. Okay. Okay, there's our tortillas. Okay, here it is. Go back. Okay, Prosopis glandulosa, honey mesquite. There's many mesquites species. This to me, I think, and it's the best flavor, the best one to eat. This species, and you guys probably know better than I do, it starts here in Anza Borrego. It goes all the way to Colorado. It goes all the way to Texas. It goes all the way to Mexico. I was in Mexico City. I was in Templo Mayor in the Zocalo of Mexico, where they developed they found that whole pyramid ground under that Cortez buried. And you go in, they found these caches, and they found these things in there, mesquite beans. They found sea slugs from the ocean that was supposedly brought alive and buried in these offerings to the gods. Seashells and coral and mesquite beans and all these other things, eagles and wolves and things that were buried for the gods before they built these pyramids. I mean, goes that back. This food, mesquite, is, I believe, one of these foods that can save world hunger. It's a tree that can take 120, 30 degrees weather, has a very deep root system. It, all parts, you can eat the flower, not as very tasty, but you can eat the flower. The sap is used in medicine by the Native people. The beans, of course, the one that I have here You can taste it. I gathered the bean before it was too ripe, so it's not very sweet. The more you gather, the sweeter it is. And I will tell you one thing too about acorns. I'm gonna tell you this. This is what we learned. Some of you probably know this. Okay, when you gather them in the wild, these foods are not, they do hybridize, as we know, right? But you can go to a live oak, farm, not farm, but oak field. And if you start collecting, oaks from each tree, even though they're the same species, the acorns are shaped different. Check it out. Same species, some are small, some are chubby, some are long, same species, okay? When you gather mesquite, I go to the forest and I pull out a mesquite, the most yellow, the more ripe, I gather it and I chew it. Is it sweet? Is it good? Is it bitter? Is it sour? If it's bitter and sour, I don't get that one. Okay, this is how you gather in the wild. You have to taste, you have to see if it's good. And then if it's a sweet one, I gather. If it's not, I don't buy it because it's gonna make my flour not be very good. So, acorns, I'm gonna want that acorn live oak tree that gives the big, fat, chunky one with a lot of nut. I'm not gonna mess with that little one that has little tiny ones, okay? And that's why you hear that Native people own these trees. Families for generations would take these trees and make them part of the family, because that's the one you would go back every time. Not only that, I'm sure there were some that tasted better than others, you know? Remember, why we get these beautiful apples in the store and beautiful peaches, because they graft, right? You guys know that. They got this beautiful apple tree, has these beautiful apples, they're gonna cut a branch, they're gonna grow all these apples or avocados, and they're gonna get branches from that tree, and they're gonna stick it on this root system, and now you're gonna have the same looking avocado, the same looking peach, or the same looking apple. Voila, we got the same thing, because we're picky. We don't want the twisty one, we don't want the small one, we don't want the little one, we want the big, pretty one, you know? Even though they all have the same nutritional value, the whole same whatever. So we kind of gotten that far. You know, we've kind of trained that. I don't want that one over there, you know, whatever. It's when you gather, you know, you pick, you know, you're also choosing when you pick as well in the wild, as well. But anyway, mesquite, I believe, like I said, it's low glycemic, high fiber, calcium. It doesn't take a lot of water. That's the one I want to compare this to almonds. The tricky thing is though, these foods, because everybody want to talk about mesquite. It's like, oh yeah, mesquite barbecue. Oh, mesquite barbecue chips. I've had that. No, I'm talking about the fruit. It's in the legume family. Okay, it's the legume. It's a bean. It looks like this. Right now it's blooming. It probably has little pods on it. It will start growing. It will start probably like around here, probably about September. October. Now, there's one thing about mesquite. It's a legume, and it does get that thing like peanuts get. So what you want to do, what is that bacteria, whatever that you get a reaction. Yeah, it'll get that. But the thing to prevent that, you want to get it before it hits the ground. You want to gather it when it's ripe, and then you pick it, and then you store it. You dry it. What I did, I dry it in these big baskets that I have, where they can breathe, and then I roast it and then I grind it. How they did in the past, they had these big old mesquite mortar bowls, and they would grind it down into a flour, a main staple. The sad thing is, you guys, nobody's eating anymore. Native people aren't eating this anymore. It's good for diabetics, it's low glycemic, neutralizes your blood sugar, high fiber, good for your microbiome, all that good stuff. But we're eating almonds. That draining out the water, you know, the aquifers. But now I'll tell you, and some of you go, oh, I'm gonna go get almonds, whatever, that's it, you know, what mesquite flour, very hard to find. This species, hard to find. Not in the market. Native Seed Search, Tucson, Arizona, everyone know about that place? Look it up, they're super cool. Native Seed Search out of Arizona, they used to sell it. But they've, what's taken over the market is a species coming in from South America, but I don't like it. But it's a species that's the one who has the market right now, selling this variety of mesquite flour. But we had this all over the place. I have been to Sonora and I've driven hours and hours of mesquite fields. They're cutting it to make charcoal, and we're not eating it. We're not eating this food. And yet well, that would be my thing. I learned a lot of this from, Richard Felger, promote a lot of this, whatever. But anyway, go ahead, let's go to the next one. Okay, this is not just page 7 of the book 10. Here's some nice tortillas I brought. We fused the flour tortilla with mesquite flour. Very good. The only thing about mesquite flour is that it will burn. So I use it instead of flour, like to bake my chicken. We have a quail recipe here, and I rub it, little mesquite flour, and I bake it, and because it's fibrous, it will burn. So so you just have to be a little careful. That's probably one of the disadvantages about it, but it's a good way. That what it is, we put in the flour that we've used the basic flour tortilla recipe with mesquite flour. Go ahead, let's put it on the next page. We've got the crackers that Gabby made us. Here's some crackers. Now, Indians didn't eat it like this. Okay, I know, and I know that. I'm telling you that because we're trying to introduce you to the flavor, to get you to like it. Hopefully then you'll eat it in the traditional way. That was eaten in a gruel. That was just mixed with water, like into a toilet. And if you're not good, dude, you get the runs. If you eat too much of it, or you're gassy. It's happened to me. So it's something, but these are ways to kind of introduce it slowly for people to eat it, people to develop a palate. We want people to develop these pellets for this food. Okay, the next one. There's our pancakes. We made our pancakes mixed with and I put a little sage. But this when Gabby was talking about the garden festival we did at Santana. That was pancakes that we made with a little sage. Really good combination, by the way. A little sage. Hummingbird sage is even better because the flavor just melts in there. So all different ways. Arizona, because it's way ahead. They really come up with a lot of recipes. There's a little picture of the bean right there. I usually have some, but I ground them and roasted them because little bugs get to them. You do have a problem with little mite. Whenever you can, they still find them and they grind it. So you want to roast. Once you roast it, kill them. You grind it. And don't worry about it. There's a little extra protein in there, so we'll worry that much about it. Go on to the next one. There's some cookies made with that, with mesquite flour. So all kinds of things with this would be an idea. So mesquite, I believe it's a food for the future. I believe it's a food that's gonna help save, world hunger. It's a plant that we don't know a lot, that we don't, we're not looking at as much, but include Native people. If you want to do a business, stuff, whatever, whatever. People have tried in Arizona, but it hasn't really got, that the Tohono O'odham on the reservation actually harvested, they get the kids to harvest it. They have a big old meal, they roast it, and they sell it. In Tucson, they also have another public meal that this group has, Harvester, something, whatever. I've been to their event and people have it as an ornamental, will bring their buckets and they roast and grind it for you. You go home with your mesquite flour. Although what's happening in Tucson, whatever, they've also brought that non-native species to Arizona. Palm Springs has too. Another variety of mesquite that's not native. I don't know what they did that, but I guess it's prettier leaf and stuff, whatever. But so we do have that problem where they're bringing other species in our desert communities. But this Prosopis glandulosa, honey mesquite, would be for me one of my favorite foods. Okay, let's see what else we have up there. Okay, there you go. Quickly pair. Okay, this you had here, I made it with eggs. This is another one. Again, I told you earlier, it's on the Mexican flag. It's a staple for Mexican people. We all grew up with it. I gotta tell you, growing up Mexican, my parents, would eat that, and I just kind of liked it. And then I finally started developing a palate for it now, whatever. Now I love it. I'm actually very fortunate that my neighbors where I live at, by the way, what you're eating here is Ocean Breeze Organic. I live in Laguna Beach. My neighbor has this whole thing for fire retarder, what do they call it? Fire brake. You got, this is Opuntia ficus indica. Okay, remember it's hybridized. All Opuntias are edible. But the ones wild here, you gotta get them now. We're in the season, but they have a lot of stickers. And you can get them, but you just gotta get them. This has been hybridized to have a lot of the stickers, oglokids. This I too would say is another food of the future. It glows, especially in our climate here. It does real well. We're right smack in the season, and the nopal pads are right now. This is when you gather them right now. And they are low glycemic, high calcium for women who need calcium. They're the mucilaginous, you guys, that we're so afraid of the slimy stuff. But it's how you cook them. Nopales, you get them, you chop them up, and what you can do, there's two ways what I do. I don't put water in it. I cook them in their own juice and so they dry out. You have to stir. You cook them down. And what I do then, because I have so many of my neighbors, and then I put them in baggies and I freeze them. Or you get the peels of the tomatillos. You know the tomatillo? Put those in there and steam them in that. That helps kind of cut back the sliminess. But you want that sliminess. You want that mucilaginous. You want that in your gut. That doses our gut. Okay? But we'd rather eat cornflakes and other things, whatever, that don't have all the, slime. Would be that. So nopales, super duper food. They can grow on bad soil. You don't even have to be a good gardener to grow nopales. Okay, you just cut the thing, let it heal, put it in the ground, the damn thing grows by itself. Little water. You do have problems with cochineal. It can sometimes kill it. You can also scrape that up and make ink dye with that as well. Like I said, right now we're right smack in the season when you want to get them. Remember I was talking about earlier about seasonal foods. Okay. However, what you can do in the fall, the winter, if you want to eat nopales, you can eat what's called corazón de nopal. So you get the 2-year-old pads. Okay. The nice big chunky fat ones. You guys have all seen them when they're dry, they have that screen looking thing, that fiber thing, whatever. I had one, but I didn't bring it. So what you do is you cut right down the middle. You eat the heart. You're gonna take those two pieces on the side and you go for the core, the heart of the nopal. Chop it up, eat it just like regular nopal. You can eat that in the winter time when there's no baby pads, so that you can eat it year long. But that would be the 2-year, not the older ones. I've seen people, what they do, they also cut into, make like a bowl and they cook in it. They put on the coals like a bowl and they'll cook in it. I see people that put them together and stuff things, whatever, and tie them together and then roast them in the fire. And they'll have meat inside or whatever, or seafood, of course, cooks much faster, so it cooks, much better, real quick. Would be one there. Many ways to try nopales. It's something, like I was saying earlier, it's like, you guys, we have no choice. We have to look into food alternatives. We have to. I mean, and we have to not be so picky. We have to start thinking how we're gonna eat these foods that we know are good for our planet and good for us and are easy to grow. That don't take a lot of water and all that stuff, whatever. Donuts, the prickly pear by September, October, depending, they'll be ready. You guys, you can eat the cactus pads. They're good when they're tender, when they're about this big, about that big, and about that big. It's about the flavor. The smaller, the milder, the bigger, the more tart. It kind of cooks out. But the tuna is the same. The fruit is the same. The fruit, when it just turns red, when it's good, it's its best peak. You get it, it's crispy. And you take the glogids off. It's another whole thing. I brush them off and then I get them. And then you cut them open, you eat them, full of seeds. The native people would eat the seeds. You can eat the flower petals too, but they're blooming right now. This year, because of the drought, our nopalera is producing mostly fruit. Very few pads, mostly fruit for some reason. Last year, with all the rain we had, covered. I was gathering pads until August. Right now, there's a lot of pads going on, but most of the Opuntias, this ficus indica in my neighborhood right there, And my friend Deborah Small's also at her house in Rainbow. She's also getting a lot of fruit, to produce a lot of fruit. The fruit also has its peak. You want to get it right before, right when it's crispy. If it stays on too long, it still looks good. But what happens is you'll get it and it gets mushy and a lot of the sugar goes back into the plant. So it doesn't taste very good. So they do have a ripeness when you want to get them. And that's usually right after they turn red and you taste them as you go. And that's really when they're the best to eat. Okay, let me see anything else right here because almost coming. I tell you, we don't have enough time. But I've been doing this for years and in the nopales, how to clean nopales, we have some salads that Gabby here was able to cook for us, which you guys recommend to try. It's just knocking up the glow-kits off of it. There's those, you can find all this stuff on Google or whatever, or look it up online. It shows you how to clean nopal and stuff, whatever. I mean, it's pretty easy to do. I like to wear gloves. That's my fingers, movie star fingers. But I do wear gloves because I hate those glow-kit things. I hate those things. All of a sudden you're like, it's like, I have an in, I can't see it, whatever. So I wear gloves, when I pick them and I wear gloves and I clean them or whatever, and for the most part or whatever. What I do is after I clean them, I don't wash them. When you wash them, the mucilage just oozes out. I'm gonna just chop them up after, because then when you cook them, if anything's on there, you're gonna kill, it's gonna kill it. Heat's gonna kill anything, whatever, right? So I don't worry about that because it just kind of makes them all messy and stuff, whatever. Would be that one. Let's open up for questions, Dan. And like I said, we're almost done here in time. I do have some more snacks here, but anybody have any questions? I know I'm just kind of rattle on whatever and all, whatever about. Yes, sir.
That acorn that we ate, now that was just like a mash, it hadn't been, nothing had been done to it and what was done to that between?
What we're done with that is I ground it.
Okay.
And then I put it in a strainer with a cloth, a dish towel, not gauze, because that's too big, a dish towel. And then I put it in there, and then I put water in, I fill it up, I walk away, I come back, fill it again as it filters through, and I taste it as I go. When it's not bitter anymore to my taste buds, it's done. It could be 5 washes, it could be 6 washes, depending on the species. Live oaks seem to be a little more. But you can also overwash. And if you overwash, you wash out all the fat and you end up eating sawdust. So there is a time to eat it that you want to eat it when you got the flavor, when you still got the fat in there, and you got the nut and.
Well, that was my question. We were just tasting the acorn. It wasn't a bunch of other.
That's just acorn.
That's just
That
the
is
acorn.
just acorn. That is just brown acorn from Mount Wilson. That is nothing in it. We fuse it, we do make bread with it, we make other things, whatever. But I just wanted you guys to taste that traditional on how it was eaten traditionally. That's the way it would have been eaten here, exactly like that. Goes to accompany meat. It was the carbohydrate breads to eat meat and others or whatever. That's what that would be. That's one of the reasons how you would eat acorn. It fills you up. But the benefits, like I said, it's low glycemic. It's all this benefits to acorn. So like I said, I don't have a fancy slide, so I just kind of want to show off the book here, whatever, a little bit what goes on here. When you dry the acorn, it's that you also want to make sure, that little skin on it, like a peanut has a little skin. You want to make sure it's dry enough for that to come off. If you leave that off, you're going to have a very messy flour, and it's also bitter. It's going to be harder to wash. So you want a nice naked acorn nut, like a peanut. Crack a peanut and that little skin comes off. You want that to have the acorn. Once it's nice and dry, and then like I said, you grind and pulverize it. The more you grind it, the more you grind it, and the more you flesh it. But there's other ways I've seen that other people invented it. I've seen it flush. I've seen people put acorns in water, shell the nut, and then they dump it and then fill it up, and then you can see by the color of the water. You can look up online. There's a lot of other ways, but traditional here, I use the traditional way of grinding it and flushing the flour. But I've seen people do that. They put the acorns in water, let it sit for a few days, and then they put more water, dump it until you wash all the tannins out. Then they mash it wet. But we do it dry. the dry flour, and it stores better that way, would be that. Questions?
We can have one more question, then we have to start cleaning up. You can eat as much as you
Yeah.
want.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's clean up.
I have three questions. There was a picture of a gymnosperm with water pouring into it. Like a
Yeah, redwood, cooked redwood.
Yeah,
redwood,
yeah.
yeah. So can you explain that?
That's just so that the water goes like this.
So the acorns are in.
The acorn flour was at the bottom of that,
Oh,
and
I
it has
see.
the towel on the bottom, which says, okay, traditionally how it was done. The ladies would have the ground acorn, they would go to the creek beds. All right, they would make this big hole that kind of looked like a big ant mound. They would lay it with pine needles or leaves, whatever, they would put the flour in there, and then they would put the water and flush it. And the sand worked as what would pull the tannins out. Once it's good, you scrape it out, it was thrown into a basket with water, and the hot stones were there, and it was cooked that way. Okay, so what they're doing here is just showing you that it just kind of spreads the water a little better, instead of just pouring it in, it's gonna kind of spread it almost like a little UV fan, kind of, like a
I think, I think native foods is a great idea, because people coming to Los Angeles would experience what we have in Southern California. It would be a great idea. The only problem that I think, besides the processing and getting it and everything, is for the USDA, if you're selling food, flour has bugs in it, rice has bugs in it, everything has bugs in it. And I would bet that this would have more. Doesn't bother me, but you know how people are.
But the number one thing is, we have to also consider about cultural appropriation. That's the big one. I see that as a big one. Even bigger than what you were saying to me, is like, people are gonna say, oh, you're taking our food, this, whatever, we kind of don't wanna go there. But once you get over that, and you get some people to work with you, then you can kind of start going out, whatever. I'm working right now with the state of California on the Paula Reservation, where we're trying to bring these foods. They're a little bit kind of like, that we gave them our recipes, and they're now approving them. They haven't proven yet, but they're approving some. They do have some native food that we're gonna be using on reservations in the state. So, I mean, it is the movement now, after so many years, it's kind of happening now. So, yes, any
I'm
questions?
sorry, we really have to
All right.